Homeschooling can be exciting and overwhelming at the same time. Today, I'm going to share 4 tips for your first day. Welcome to Sarah Still Teaches, a place where we get real about the education of our children. First, you want to set realistic goals. Don't go into the day thinking everything will go perfectly and you'll cover a lot of content. It's your first day of homeschool. You and your child are adjusting to new expectations and new routines. There's bound to be some hiccups along the way. So keep your expectations and goals achievable for this first day. Once you've set those goals, it's time to make a plan for the first day. Your second tip is plan out the activities that you are going to do in that first day of homeschooling with your children. I have always been a paper and pencil planner. Call me old school. I have yet to find a program online that I love enough to make the switch from a paper and pencil planner. So to plan our first day of homeschooling, I went to Amazon and found a notebook planner. So far, I am enjoying it. We're about 3 months into our homeschooling program, and I have to say that this planner allows me to plan out my entire week and plan field trips, what we're going to be doing throughout the month. I have found it very helpful, and it also has a spot for keeping track of attendance. What days are we doing school? So I found that very helpful so that if I need anything for record keeping purposes, it is all right here in this one notebook. For our family, we were starting in the middle of the year, so I wanted to know exactly where Leland was at in 3rd grade. So I had some assessments planned for that first day of school, but I also had some fun activities planned in between so that we could slowly ease into the schooling at home. I also sat down and wrote out what I wanted to go over with the kids as we started our morning. I wanted to make sure that I didn't miss anything. So I made a list of things that I wanted to go over with them as we started our day. This list included things like establishing rules, talking about norms and routines. Where do we go to find things in our room? I gathered all of our art supplies, notebooks, papers, journals, anything that we would need during this school year, and I made sure it was all in our homeschooling room. I wanted to show the kids what tools we were going to be using throughout the year and also show them where we were going to be keeping those tools so they would know if I was working with Leland, they could go over to the bookshelf and pull off their letters box, or they could pull out their crayons and coloring books. I wanted them to know where everything was within this space so that not only could they take it out when they needed it, but they also knew where to put it away. I think it's important that the kids are responsible for cleaning up when they are done with an activity, and so showing them where all of these materials belong within the room really helps hold them accountable for that. My third tip is establish routines and expectations. This comes from my traditional classroom experience, where on the first day, you're really getting to know each other, getting to know the environment, and setting up some expectations and routines for the classroom to help it run smoothly. I think this is really important in your first day of homeschool because you've lived in this home with your children in a parent-child situation, but now you're stepping into the role of an educator or facilitator of education. And so your expectations and routines are going to be different than what they previously were. Establishing these with your children will help them feel comfortable in the school day and know what is being expected of them. Leland had some classroom experience, so he knew some of the norms of a typical classroom, but the twins have not gone to traditional school at all, so I wanted to make sure they knew what to expect and establish some norms and rules for them, especially as we started our homeschooling journey. To establish our daily routines, the first thing I had the kids do when they came downstairs into our classroom was take out all of our homeschooling materials so we would be ready to start learning for the day. The next thing that we did was some calendar work. What is the day of the week? Anybody know what month it is? The date, and then the year. So every day we talk about the date and do a little bit of calendar work. After calendar work, we practice a calming strategy every day. I really want the kids to be able to have strategies when they're feeling frustrated, angry, or feeling an emotion they're not sure what they should do with. So we've been practicing calming strategies from this book every morning when we start school. It's the first thing we start with, and I find that some of the deep breathing can really help bring the kids to a place of calm and peacefulness before we get started with our day. Once you've gone over the routines for every day and what you expect them to do to get started, then I would go over establishing some expectations. What are the rules for the room? This comes from my traditional classroom experience. Whenever I develop rules, I like to have the kids involved because it gives them a little bit of buy-in. If I'm telling them, these are the rules and this is what I expect you to do, then they're following them because I've said so. But if they help me come up with the rules, then there's more buy-in and they're more likely to follow the rules and hold others accountable. To start coming up with the rules, have a simple conversation. Just ask the kids, what do you think the rules should be when we're doing school? You're going to be amazed. They come up with some really great ideas on their own, and I rarely have to fill in any gaps for things that they've missed. It's funny, even the twins had some ideas to incorporate that day about taking turns talking, keeping our hands to ourselves, very basic rules that we follow in other areas of our household, but to have them on paper and say, this is what we're going to do while we're in this room, really solidifies that they're here to learn and they want to be successful. Tip number 4 is to be flexible, but also consistent. The number one skill homeschooling parents need to master is being flexible, but still staying consistent. Children are unpredictable, and you never know when a bad day is going to strike. Maybe they stayed up too late, or maybe they're just feeling a little under the weather. But kids aren't always the best at communicating these things, so sometimes it shows up in other areas. So knowing when you need to be flexible in your plans for the day is really important. But there is also a fine line between being flexible and also staying consistent. Leland is a great example of this. He really does not like writing, and so I know when to say enough is enough for the day when it comes to writing, but I also know that I need to expose him to writing regularly in order for us to get over this hurdle and for him to see himself in a different light as a writer. The bottom line is you know your child best, so you know when to say, this day isn't working the way I expected it to. Let's call it a day and start again tomorrow. Or maybe it's just a 5-minute break. Go take a 5-minute break, do some calming strategies, and then let's come back to this. As a parent, your gut is typically right. So trust your gut when it comes to educating your child as well. Even as a veteran teacher, I found myself with those same first day jitters that I used to get before the school year started on our first day of homeschooling. Was I going to be able to pull this off? Did I plan everything? Did I have everything I needed to ensure that we were going to be successful in this homeschooling journey? I had all of the same nerves that I went into the classroom with in my house doing our homeschooling program. So I hope this video is helpful to you in starting your journey, feeling comfortable and confident going into that first day. Let us know in the comments how your first day of homeschooling went.